Greetings, disruptors. My YouTube is telling me we are live. The mic is hot, and we have
Mireille.
Mireille. I just was practicing, and I knew that was going to happen. Thank you, Mireille Sine, with us, and we're discussing running with purpose. And it's going to be a fun time. I'm super excited to have her here with us today. And let's just jump right in. Mireille, that's
Yes.
so fun to say. How do you show up in the world, darling?
I show up in many ways. I think when I hear that question, first and foremost, I think of the self and sort of like the daily affirmations of, who I am, who I've been, and who I want to become. And then all the other labels that, we gain throughout life. Like I am a sister, I am a daughter, I am a girlfriend, and all of these things. I'm a friend in general. So I think just show up understanding that I contain multitudes within me. So I never have to be just one person. I can always choose to be, what feels better on that day.
I love it. I love it. I love it so much. I was sharing with her how much I enjoy also seeing just another beautiful brown face and working to get her name right. And as soon as we go live, I say exactly what I was saying, how it looked like it was spelled. And we talked about that your name is French. So
Yes.
what origin, how, where, who, what, why?
Yeah, so I'm from Cameroon. It's a country in West Africa. It was a previously French colonized country as well. So that's where that name comes from. So there's a lot of French influences from media and culture, obviously governances. And I say it's funny to say like previously colonized because of course the French still have a hand in that country.
Okay, I was going to ask.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
sharing the young lady that started my locks for me. She's from Cameroon. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how is it previously decolonized? That word has been coming up quite a bit in my conversations lately.
Yeah, I say decolonize in the sense that yes, I mean we did gain our independence in 68, I want to say
Okay.
1968, which is, sort of late if you look at the timeline of things. So it is still a free country, but after a country has been ruled over for so long, it's just hard for it to get back on its feet, like economically and things like that. So while we have we have a president and I hesitate to say election because he's been the president for quite some time at this point. It's independent in that sense, but you can sometimes tell that there's a sway or a pull from Europe. Yeah.
Shay.
Yeah.
Is the primary language French?
French. I think if you look at, I don't know what like there's certain records that they have there, it says it'll list English and French, but there are
Oh,
definitely predominantly French areas and areas where English is highly encouraged.
oh wow.
Yeah, but a majority
Now,
of people will have French as their first language.
is there a native language though to the indigenous there?
Several.
Oh,
And that depends on, the village that you came from, the countrymen that you shared with. So I don't know like our tribal language because I kind of left too early to get that inundated in me, but I do know the tribe I came from. So if we're looking at different villages, I know the name of my community and I know there's a language spoken within them that my parents still speak, but that's one level above what I grew
I
up
love that.
knowing.
Are you open to sharing your tribe and calling their name, putting their
Yeah,
name in the circle? I love that.
yeah.
Feel free.
My tribe name is Bamilike.
Bami,
Ba-
Bamilike.
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 Yes. Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm actually, so that's West Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Day after Christmas, I'm going to Ghana. My very
Nice.
first trip to Africa. So
Nice.
I'm super excited. How far do you know how far difference that is? Cameroon to Ghana?
Not maybe a couple countries over. I'm thinking it's a little bit more north of Cameroon, but still on
Mm,
the west side, if I have that correctly.
I have
Yeah.
no idea.
I
I'm gonna
have to look
find
at
it
a map.
all out. I love that.
Yeah.
Just hearing you speak sounds so sexy. Cameroon, Cameroon.
Yes.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, let's get into running with purpose. What inspired you to become a run coach?
So I've been an athlete for pretty much all of my life. I was lucky enough to do sports early and dance early as well. Um, I didn't dabble in running until I was in high school, and I did high school track for a couple of seasons. And I didn't even like running back then. I really just wanted to hang out with my friends. And, once you get to like 11th and 12th grade, it just seems cool. But when I went to college, I was majoring in exercise science. It's like a division of kinesiology.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, I wanted to be a physical therapist. So in all the coursework that we were doing, it was very involved, with biology and physics and chemistry and all this stuff. So I think in the process of learning everything that happens within our bodies when we're in motion, it made running seem more interesting to me. So that was one half of it. And the other half was that it was just fairly accessible, right? As a broke college kid, you really don't have a lot of money to be spending on like, a tennis rackets or some of these more high level sports. So like just owning running shoes, the old technology at the time with like, using an iPod to track my miles and things like that. It was easy. I could run on campus. I could, go out and come back. And it made me feel good in the time. And it kind of, it made me feel like I had just autonomy in a time where like you're learning to find yourself and be yourself. And I don't know. I always love moving my body. I love to take, workout classes and things like that. So running felt like that natural progression.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's a good way to do something good for your body.
Mm-hmm.
I used to believe that I would be a runner.
Mm-hmm.
I
You
could see in
silly.
my mind running, and
Yeah.
I had my son to get the kind of weight off. I
Mm-hmm.
started running
Yeah.
um, a lot more, but I'm smaller framed in some areas, but I've got big breasts. Was a that was a challenge for
Mm-hmm.
the running space, but I absolutely love walking. Love walking.
Yeah.
How long? So would you say you found your love for running in college? Is that when it came about, or was it present before that?
I think for distance running specifically, because in high school I was just doing sprints and hurdles. I couldn't really imagine myself doing like a 5K, which is 3.1 miles at the time, even though our school had a cross country team as well. But even I thought what they were doing was like a little too crazy. It's like, you run this long for fun on the weekend.
Yeah,
So
just
it's so,
run.
yeah, you just run. So it's so interesting looking back and like knowing those were my thoughts versus now, like that's something those crazy things that I used to gawk at are like what I do on the regular now. Like it's just part of life. So yeah, so I say college was around the time where it really cemented that it was just, something I could do. Yeah.
Yeah. Running to me, I know walking for me feels like a total body workout. How does running impact the body and the movement of running?
Mm-hmm. I think it's so funny because most people, they start out running for the physical benefits, whether it's to train for another sport that they're in, to get in shape or to lose that weight, what have you. And the longer you do it, the more it turns into like, it's not even about the physical, but it's also like the mental and emotional.
Mhm.
Whenever I have to take an extended break, like if I get sick or I have to travel, it's like after a few days, you can sort of feel the difference in your body from not having had the physical release of it, right? So
Mhm.
running, it's really how I like to get my day started because I feel clearer afterwards too. I think for most people can relate to like just having a bunch of jumbled thoughts in the morning when you wake up,
Yes,
and automatically it's like I know if I go out for a run, things will work themselves out, and then I come back and I can handle things a little bit better.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. So what are the benefits and what's actually happening when you're running?
Yeah, there's so many things that are happening. One, yes, the physical is the most obvious, just turning over the legs, pounding the pavement or on the treadmill or whatever you are, whatever section you're running. It could be trail running as well if you like to do that and run on softer surfaces. So we have, blood getting pumped into your legs, which is why maybe like in those colder seasons, you feel a little bit colder in your extremities because all your brain sort of has a switch where it turns into, all right, we're either in trouble or we're okay. Some people have that panic mode of just like, oh, I don't know, like if it starts to hurt in the beginning or they get super itchy. So there's always that initial uncomfortable phase in the body that you really just have to work through. I feel like it's important to point out that like even the most seasoned of runners, they feel the same, right? Because turning over from sedentary to being in motion, your body has so much work to do, like internally, to make sure that you have enough oxygen, you have the blood that you need to get going. So the first mile is always going to feel the hardest. And that's when a lot of people, they tend to quit because they're like, oh, this feels bad. Why would I keep doing this? But you really have to get past that mile 1, get to mile 2, get to mile 3 to really settle into the run. So, we have your heart rate increasing, perspiration increasing until you kind of learn to really control your breathing, which can take a little bit. But, you got the heart pumping, getting stronger. It's a great cardio exercise for that. Leg muscles getting stronger too. You're using your hamstrings, your quads, and your glutes to propel you forward. I think running is interesting in the sense that like most people don't realize that you're always on one foot. It's not like walking where like even in that walking motion, one foot's usually lifting, one foot's on the ground, but running is really just an act of balancing, going from one foot to the other.
I could see that. Yeah. Not thought about that. Wow, there was something that you said. The running, oh, you mentioned 3 miles.
Yes.
So is that kind of like the average length that you want to run for like benefit, or because I'm probably the 1 mile. I'm a 45-minute whatever kind of exercise I'm doing, between 45 and an hour. So whatever I get in that time, not really distance, it's more time based. Does it matter?
No, time based is another strategy that's really helpful as well, especially with those people who are time crunched, because it can be hard to predict how long you'll cover a certain distance, whether it's 3 miles or 5 miles. But reframing it into, I only have 30 minutes. Let me go out 15 and come back. So it's really just, what you have time for, whether or not you are training for something. I'd say 3 miles it's a bit arbitrary, but it is one of the more popular distances as far as like races go for the general population. Like there's very competitive 5Ks as what they're called, but there's a lot of like community based 5Ks, like 5Ks to raise fundraisers. We're in the holiday season, so you have your turkey trot, you have your Santa runs, your reindeer runs, and things like that. Just because it's really easy to get like the whole family involved in that distance. But the longer you go, say, so you have the 10K next, and you have the marathon, the half marathon, and then the full marathon, and then you have what's called ultras outside of that. So that's more than 26.2 miles. There's a whole other world with that.
No, I've never even heard of that in running. Ultras.
Yes.
Is that distance based, the ultras, or do they vary?
Yes, so they have their own set of distance markers as well. So by definition, an ultra is anything over 26.2 miles, which is a marathon, the standard marathon distance. For the ultra distance, they start at what's called a 50K, which is about 31 and a half miles. So you have 50K, 60K, 100K, 100-miler, 200-miler, 250-miler. Yeah, those races exist.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. What is it that they're so what is like the Valhalla of running as far as a race? What is that look like for someone that's running and they want to make their maximum peak and get which one is that? Or what
it depends. On the road side of running, the marathon is definitely the pinnacle. So that's that 26.2 miles. And there's what's called the world major marathons that a lot of people seek after, but there's probably a marathon in every town by now. And then on the trail running side, the 100-miler is like a real, like the golden spot, right? And there's some very famous 100-milers. There's one right here in California called Western States. There's one in Europe that goes through France and Switzerland called UTMB. So
what? I had no idea. How long, what's the average time to run 100 miles?
Most have a time limit of 24 to 30 hours. And that
Okay.
depends on the race. There's races out there that are very generous. Cutoff times is what they call it. So as long as you kind of keep moving and checking in from aid station to aid station, you'll be all right. But I think this past Western States race, it was won in about 14 hours on the male side. I'm forgetting the women's side, but 14 hours running 100 miles. It's very, very fast.
That is very fast. Wow.
Yeah.
What what is the difference between a walker and a runner as far as benefits to the body?
So I say that in order for anybody to be a runner, they need to be a consistent walker first, right?
Mm,
Because at least starting with walking is what helps you build that schedule and build that stamina. If you can't bring yourself to go on a 30-minute walk 3 times a week, you're gonna have real hard time getting out for a 30-minute run 3 times a week, right? So at least getting used to that impact on your body, even though with walking it's a much softer impact than running does, but it's not so much the intensity of it. It's, as a coach, I'm mostly looking for like, can you commit to this? Right. If you can't commit to, again, walking 30 minutes a day, 3 times a week, it's going to be hard for you to live out your running dreams if you can't even start with the baby steps. But yeah, walking is a great intro. I'm also one of those coaches that like encourages you to walk during your run if you need to. I think there's like this stigma of if you walk at any point during your run, you're not really a runner. And I think that's so outdated. It's such BS. I
mm,
walk during my runs if I have to. It's important if you, especially if you're like eating on the run, if you need to fuel, running and trying to eat something at the same time is pretty hard. So why not just
mhm.
walk? Sometimes the run just gets hard and you need a break, right? There's such thing
Yeah.
as like the walk run method that
Hmm.
people can use to train, or literally just stopping, walking for a couple of minutes and then getting back to your run. So it's pretty integral, I'd say, to the running process.
I feel like I'm a walker, but there are times when I get bursts of energy and then
Yeah.
I need to stop and walk so that
Yeah.
I can breathe.
Right.
But I do love running in my mind when I feel like I'm at my best, optimally in my body and things.
Hmm.
Feel like running, but majority of the time I'm definitely a walker. How
Hmm.
to so walk us through what are you looking for in your clients, or what are the clients typically looking for in you, um that they would want your services or need your services?
Yes. So, as a coach, I'm definitely interested in the client that understands that progress is a long-term goal. While it's great to have clients that come to me with like they already know what race they want to run and how far along that they need to go, that's great. But I'm also interested in the person that's just like, here's where I am. I'd like to go here. How do we go there? And sometimes, because sometimes I have to be the person that goes like, this is a great goal, but it's not going to happen in the timeline that you envision. Like it's really going to look more realistically like this. Do you have the time, patience, energy to stick it out, to go through it? I'm also like a debunker in a ways. I feel like in a lot of my clients, I'm doing a lot of unlearning that from what's been learned in like just media and social media and all that stuff about like fueling in general and on the run, like differences or benefits of the treadmill, importance of recovery and things like that. So there's a real big educational piece that comes with getting me as a run coach. So it's not just about saying, hey, go run this miles here and on this day and then go do this. It's very much like we have to work with your schedule. We have to make sure things are always aligned with your goal.
Right.
You're not getting like a cookie cutter plan. Like I really have to personalize and tailor it to where you are, and again, basing it off on where you want to go. And I think a lot of athletes come to me. I'm very like present on social media, so I've talked actively about my running journey. So people are they sort of know that like I've done these marathons or I've done these trail races. I'm always talking about like, oh, this is how I felt or what I went through. So it's a piece of my story that they can relate to, and they themselves are looking for that improvement or help to get into their next goal, or they've kind of like try to do the same thing over and over again. It might be hitting a
Right.
wall. Yeah.
I love that. And it's something you mentioned, you said running goals.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to want to run a race to become a client, or are there other reasons I might need your services?
Yeah, that's a great question. Not everybody is out there to, PR is the term we use, set a personal record for their next goal,
Uh,
which means like to run faster than they did before. Not everybody is interested in having a year full of races, right? Some people are
mhm.
just doing it for the fitness, they're doing it for their health, but they want to do it in a more structured manner where they're reducing their injuries. They're not getting burnt out as much. They get the support that they need, largely in strength training or other facets of running as well. So yeah, definitely not everybody is here because they want to run a race or to get faster, which is a common goal. Yeah, some people just want to do what they love better.
So personal record. I'm taking notes, by the way, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a student in learning this stuff too. And believe maybe I will get back to it. But I definitely I love walking.
Mm-hmm.
I just absolutely love walking. You mentioned about it clearing your thoughts. I'm also a big journaler, so that's
Mm-hmm.
typically the first thing that I want to do when I wake is kind of capture my thoughts and
Yep.
what comes up. Um, and let's talk about um running from a health perspective and
Mm-hmm.
what that looks like and what that looks like for you in your space.
Yes. So from a health perspective, I think if it's something that if running is something that you generally love to do, you're in great luck. I would say it's not everybody's favorite activity. Some people are very hesitant to start because in the past it was used as punishment, for a previous sport that they may have played. So now they're like anti-running and they want to do anything but. But it is great for your health because again, it's working so many muscles in your body. It's very very easy to get into, as far as it's one of the most entry level things that you can participate in, because as long as your shoes are good and comfortable, you have some good athletic gear that's sweat wicking and all that stuff, you can have a good time, right? There's a good solo aspect to it. I think there's a difference between, like, yeah, there's running, but there's benefits that you get as you just go out and run around your block, but there's also a chance to form community around it too. And I think that's one of the other health benefits of within running too, is like finding a community of people that want to do the same thing, that want to get better at the same thing too. It's a good way for you to have that social connection while getting some physical action going. Yeah.
You said a couple things there. Running around the block. When
Mm-hmm.
you say that to me, that's like in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
It's more concrete based.
Mm-hmm.
What are there any benefits to actually doing that? It feels like that would be kind of counterproductive in a way. To me, I've noticed I prefer walking in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I would run, I prefer doing it in nature. And you
Yeah.
mentioned that you do trail running. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much I want to get into around this. So is there a difference in the two, and what kind of answer that not because I girl my brain be going fast, my
Yeah, no.
mind
So
sometimes.
trail running obviously also has great benefits simply by being in nature and seeing greenery, right?
Mhm.
I always mention starting out by running around your block because again, it's easy access. It's just heading out your front door, taking a lap, and that sometimes that's how people start out running. They're saying, "I'm just going to go around one block, and that's it. Maybe in a couple of days, I'll do 2 laps around the block."
Masha.
Um, and I've also noticed that there's a little bit of hesitancy to go into trail running as well, especially for black and brown folks, excuse me, um, who are a bit weary of what quote unquote the outdoors. Because of
Mm.
what's been said about the outdoors is like, why would I go on a trail? Why would I go in the woods and all this other stuff? So I always say, like, if we can get you comfortable just kind of running regularly within your neighborhood and on the streets, it's easier for you to transition into trail running as well. The caveat to that is, letting everybody know that trail running isn't always this wild mountain adventure, right? It is also finding a dirt or gravel path within your park. Like, that is also a trail. It is using the local community park. Like in SoCal, specifically in Los Angeles, there is a park called Griffith Park, right?
Mhm.
huge amount of land, very accessible. It's probably like the easiest trail access that I have. And there's so much that can be had within the park itself. So for me, that's also getting out on a trail, right? Yes, a lot of the trails were man-made and all that, but who cares? There's plants, there's animals, there's trees, there's other people, fresh air. You can't go wrong
Mhm.
there. Yeah.
My son lives in LA, and I know they do Runyon
Running
Canyon.
Canyon.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm,
quite
mm-hmm.
a bit. Is that a trail that's beneficial?
Yes, Runyon is, you can see Griffith Park from Runyon and vice versa. So it's funny.
Mm.
It's Los Angeles close, but not close.
Ah,
If you know what I mean.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. And is that typically the goal to get someone trail ready, if they're going to do races and things like that?
If they're interested, I'd say even if someone is only interested in racing on the road and running on the road, there's still benefits to doing the trail running, because trail, as you can imagine, different terrain. So you're learning to adapt different parts of your body and your muscles, hopefully making you a little bit more agile. You have the elevation aspect as well, which is great training for the body, like being able to hike and climb, but also run down. It's another, activity that you can do with a lot of folks. And just like I said earlier, where like when you're out on a run and if you need to take a break, you just start walking. On a trail run, you just start hiking. Half of trail running is hiking anyway. Like, don't let anybody tell you different. You're probably hiking or very slow jogging up some of these hills. So you can train for both in your schedule, and you'll get the max benefit from that.
Absolutely. Oh, awesome. And what what other are there, I want to get more to the health aspect as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um well, let me ask this question. Why running with purpose? Name of your
Why?
business is Running with Purpose. Why running with purpose?
For Coach by Mireille.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's all good. Um, I'd say a little callback to what we said earlier about, folks not necessarily wanting to run to be fast. Um, the purpose can be so personal, right? And I think there's a lot there's a lot of events that happen in people's lives that then make them go into running
Mm-hmm.
more, right? So I did run in college, but then I was also diagnosed with lupus in college. And then I couldn't do anything for a couple of years. So running was my pivot back. Like that was my test to see if I was well and healthy again, like if I could kind of get back into training shape. There's people who again have similar diagnosis and they turn to
Mm-hmm.
running for recovery. People who just want to fundraise and do good through different organizations, and they're running for charity. Um, People who maybe were professional runners and now they're sort of just like trying to bring running to their community, whether that's with
Right.
the youth or within their families and things like that. So within just the world of running themselves, you can find so many different sections of folks that got there because of a life event or a goal that they have, and that's what they have in common outside of running as well. So if I from yeah
No, no, feel free.
So from like I think having a sense of purpose is a health benefit also, to tie those two things in together. It's like, what are you waking up for every day? What are you looking forward to? Sometimes, running is the best part of some folks' day, and then they have to go and sit at a job that they don't really
Yeah.
like. And then, or maybe after work, they get to go to the run club and meet up people that they enjoy spending time with too. So yeah, having a purpose, the goal, again, whether it's this to be faster or to just sustain it longer, try to run even into your old age, like that is a health benefit in and of itself.
Well, and I'm curious, you mentioned that you have lupus and you got back to running.
Mm-hmm.
Are there benefits there? Like, what does that look like for folks that want to run and might have an autoimmune condition?
Yeah. So I say always make sure you are cleared for physical activity with your doctor. As a run coach, I definitely see myself as part of just the care team.
Mhm.
And so I'm always going to be
Mhm.
asking for my autoimmune clients, I'm always going to be asking you, like, what treatments are you getting? How are things working for you? Because I can't go against what your doctor says, no matter how bad you want to do something, right? I'm for their health also. So running with like an autoimmune or condition, or even a chronic illness, looks a little differently from the general population, because usually we have to look at the rest and recovery time being different. We have to maybe load, quote unquote, load them. That's another coaching term, as far as just like making sure we're not doing too much too soon, which is important for every runner, but even more so for those who are more prone to like a flare up, or again, needing more downtime, or they're on certain medications that doesn't allow them to do things when they need them, right? So it's a lot of restructuring in their life just to figure out like, okay, what time of day works best for me running? How do I do this around like, my treatments or my doctor schedules and things like that? How do I learn when I need to take a step back? There's a whole real learning of the body. I feel that that happens when you do get diagnosed with an autoimmune or chronic condition, where you're starting with a blank slate, and you just have to learn all the new ways your body is starting to respond to things, right? And having a coach that like has that life experience, but also is knowledgeable in the running space, can be really helpful in just having someone on your team that understands what you're going through and what you've been through, and then is able to compare that to what you could typically expect from, this stage of running versus what it is that you're experiencing.
I love that. I love that. I love that. This makes me want to ask my question that I love to know. So I'm known as the disruptor coach out here in these coaching streets. And so I would love to know, what did the disruptor in you have to disrupt?
I had to disrupt the fact that I always thought I had to follow the plan someone else had for me. Coming into coaching was a catalyst in some ways. I was very much the person that, like, I grew up in a place, in a household where, as immigrants, of course, we were like, we got to go to school, we got to do well in school, we got to go and like get these degrees and get big money and get this job. And I have got my bachelor's, I got my master's in public health, I was working a 9 to 5, and at some point, during COVID, nonetheless, where I got sick with COVID, and then it triggered a lupus flare, and then I was just miserable. And I'm like, got to the point where I'm dreading going into the office, because I'm doing good work, but it's taking up too much of my time. It's taking up too much of my energy. I don't feel like I'm getting anything back. What can I do? Like, how can I take back really my own time and my spirit and my energy, and do something for myself? And I think I've always been an ideas person, right? Like, I've always wanted to do 1,000 things at one time. So entrepreneurship is like, it's not a scary word for me, right? It was the deciding to go this route that was the scary part. So like leaving a secure gig where I had health insurance and all of this stuff, and just being like, I'm gonna try and coach and make my own business out of this. So, in the beginning, you always have those wonky periods where, like, I went from full-time job to, a part-time job and coaching on the side, and then trying to build up clientele, making sure I was still paying my bills and all that, until I finally realized that, even the part-time job was taking more time out of my day than I really wanted to. And it was holding back from the growth of the business. And then getting to a point where I was just like, you know what, 2024, I'm going to go full-time. I'm just going to see how I feel, and see what I can do. So this was the first year where I was just coaching and just on the ground, getting things started and set up on the back end. Really understanding that, like, of course, when we set out for a goal, we think we have our own timeline in our heads. And it's only when you start working on it that you realize none of that is happening the way you thought it was.
Like, who put that there? Why does that do this? How is that? What?
Yeah. But
I love that.
Even on the disruptor part, thank you. It's being a run coach specifically is interesting, because even if you were to tell a random person on the street, like, think of a coach, I'm pretty sure they're thinking of a white male.
Say that, girl.
I'm pretty sure they are thinking of a white male. And while anyone that looks at running content will think that it is dominated by Black people and African Americans because they do podium, they do win a lot of races. Kenyans are super fast. No one is denying that. If you look at the numbers of who is registering and who is participating, it is white men and white women in a lot of these races. They are the ones on a lot of the covers for running media. There was a big thing about that a few years ago where people were really just fed up and they were like, we need to see diversity in this, right? So for me, being a Black female coach is a big deal, right? Because when people think of runner, they're probably sure they're thinking again of a skinny white dude. Coach, same thing. And it's like, I'm here to say, like, no, I run, I'm still competitive with myself, and I coach others, right? Like, we all belong in this space, but no other Black or brown person is going to maybe see that until they see someone doing the thing, right? Until they see someone being the coach and being at the races and all this stuff. So that's how I'm hoping to disrupt it.
So speaking of the races, what marathons and trails have you participated in?
Ooh, the last race I did was the Chicago Marathon. It was just this past October. That was super fun. I would do that one again because the city is so alive during that day. It was one of the best cheered marathons that I've ever done. Living in Los Angeles, of course, I've done the Los Angeles Marathon about 4 times. It was my very first marathon, actually, so it's always going to be very special. I've ran in Berlin, the Berlin Marathon.
Wow.
Ran in NorCal at California International. Various amounts of like 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons. And I've done ultras too. I did a 50 miler in August, this past August, on the trails in Zion National Park. I've ran from Boston to New York on the trails in 11 days. Yeah, so I covered almost 200 miles in 11 days. It was part of this expedition. That was really, really fun. So we're just like point to point. At night we sleep in the little van that they had for us, wake up and do it all over again.
Wow.
So a lot of different adventures. Yeah.
Wow, that is wonderful. So that feels like a quality mix of different types of running that you can do to be able to also benefit the clients that would need your services. That's some wonderful.
Yeah, being able to talk about all these different adventures, and people know that I'm able to relate to what it is that they actually want to train for.
Why Berlin? That sticks out to me. What was going on and you did the Berlin run?
Yeah, so Berlin and also Chicago, they are a part of a group of marathons called World Major Marathons. So that is Chicago, Boston, New York, Berlin, London, and Tokyo. And now Sydney has been voted in as the 7th of these, right? So these are special in the sense that you don't have a regular registration like other races you might have where you just go on a website when they open up. It is a lottery system. So people enter their name into a lottery, and then of course they can only allow so many people. So it's turned, the hype around them has really just expedited or reached its boiling point in the past few years because people are, they want to get in because there's this star quality to them. They're very high production races. And if you complete all of them, not only do you get the regular medal, but you get this giant medal that says that you've done all of them too.
That's fantastic. And so there's 7 now.
There's 7 now.
Is it do you have a goal to kind of compete in all 7 at some point? Or is that realistic if it's a lottery system?
It is, because definitely once you've gotten into a few, even the organization itself wants you to complete them. So like say you needed one more, you have a higher chance of getting into that last one that you need. But I think it's important to remember that, they're definitely a special group. And while they've gotten a lot of attention these days, there's a lot of other great marathons and races that, race organizers put their heart and soul into to make a great event for the city and for people to come out to. So
I love that. I'm learning so much. Awesome. Well, let's switch gears a little bit. I'd love to dive a little bit deeper personally, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
Now, you identify as an immigrant. What age did you, so you were born in Cameroon?
Correct.
When did you come to the States?
1996.
Oh, okay.
So I was 5 at the time, and I had my 6th birthday here.
I love that. And were you always on the West Coast?
Yes. So my great uncle moved here some years before. So he was pretty settled, which helped my dad come here first. And then my mom and my brother and I, it was just us at the time to come over. So it was just like a little stepwise function. So yeah, so my dad came here first, was able to get housing, get a job, and all that stuff that made to make it possible for the rest of my family to come over.
I love that. I love that. I love that. What what would you say? Um, do you get to go back to Cameroon often?
I've only gone back once so far as an adult, and with good timing too, because I was able to see my mom's parents at the time, and because they actually passed a few years ago now, so it was they got to see me as a baby and of course as an adult, which was a gift for all of us. But my parents for sure go back a little bit more regularly than I do because that's still their home. They want to retire there. They were adults when they left, so of course they very in tune with the family and things back there, excuse me. But I imagine that when my mom starts her retirement process and wants to go back, then that's going to be the time where I'd start to visit a little bit more frequently, just because I know what I will be going for versus to go now. It's a lot of coordination.
I see. I see. I
Yeah.
love that. I love it. I'm fascinated by it. Um, what is one thing people don't know about you?
I don't know about me. Oh, that's a good question. Whew. I've always been bad at like interesting facts. I don't know. um, I think I think most people would assume that I'm just this very extroverted person.
Mm.
But in reality, I'm very much quiet and to myself. I think I read something earlier this year that kind of validated that for me. Is this like, yeah, a lot of introverts are actually good at like public facing stuff because they understand that there's a finite time. Like if you give me a presentation, I know I'm going to be in front of people for a set amount of time and then I get to go versus just if you just throw me in a room, I'm just like, all right, I got about
Oh,
30 minutes before I want to be in bed.
right.
Yeah.
My best friend and I talk about this. She's more of an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe I'm an ambivert because I
Mm-hmm.
need both.
Mm-hmm.
And we always call it peopling. The peopling meter is
Yeah. It's pretty
getting
low.
low. So I can relate to that. That's good. What would you say is one of the biggest challenges you faced in your running career, and how did you overcome it?
Ooh, okay. I think definitely it would have to be overcoming this last lupus flare that I had. So I had been in remission for like a decade, with only minor flare-ups. And uh late 2022, early 2023, um, eventually you just start to feel off for someone that knows what that's like when I was diagnosed versus just like what my normal day-to-day health feels like.
Mhm.
I think it was a hard thing first mentally to grasp onto that, like, oh my gosh, this could be something actually, serious or big. Um, but it disrupted my running in a sense because it made running feel 10 times harder than it was. So
Mhm.
as someone that had steadily built the endurance and the stamina, and the strength to do all this, to go back to like zero, which is very hard mentally and emotionally. And I feel like it was a good disruption. But again, it's like I with time, of course, I've been able to see the lesson from that, because if I hadn't had that flare up,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had those moments where I was trying to figure out like, what is my identity? Am I still a runner? Am I this? Am I that? So it really helped me like unattached from the soul need to be a runner and to be the one training and to be the one in races and just be like, this is something that I do. It's not who I am.
Yeah.
There are so many other cups I could be filling at this time. And I think if I hadn't been made to take that backseat, I honestly don't know where I'd be right now, because I'm so grateful to have had that moment, because it allows me to, not jump on certain bandwagons if it doesn't feel right for me. Or not sign up for every race and be busy every weekend, because I feel the need to be seen or be doing the things.
Yes.
I think that's something that, again, for a run coach, it's like there's an awkwardness or almost an expectation to be like also actively within the sport. And I have to
Mm-hmm.
remind myself that people aren't coming to me coaching because they also see me running. They're coming to me because they want my expertise, because I've taken the time to learn this. And it doesn't, it's great if I'm still running, of course, but it's just like, my partner actually made this comparison. It's just like, you don't see football coaches playing football, right? They're there for their expertise and their knowledge and their brain and their history. Same thing with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, given that you've lived it, breathed it, gone through it, also with an autoimmune disease, I feel like that's a level of secret sauce too, to
Mm-hmm.
help others know that you can still get through this because
Mm-hmm.
you've done it. And it feels to me like that might be the rightful path when you've gone through something like that. I know it is not happening to you, it is typically happening
For mm-hmm.
for you to be a servant in that space,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
um what do you feel that looks like for you? Is that kind of how the coaching came, or did it, or more so, did it elevate because you did go through that experience?
Yes, I'd say the coaching, it allowed the coaching to be elevated because, yes, I could then speak from that experience. And I think the more experience you have, the better able you are to talk to a greater variety of folks. Um, there's this thing in the coaching world where it can sometimes seem like athletes or clients are looking for the coaches that have had the super fast times, right? They've gone first, second, and third place. Maybe they've qualified to train for the Olympics and things like that. But what they miss is that sometimes, runners or coaches at that level may not be able to relate to the everyday folk, may not be able to relate to the person that is just trying to run their first marathon, right? So it's important to have this variety in people with different experiences in order to reach different folks.
I would imagine too, it's helpful to see a coach that looks like you
Mm-hmm.
also.
Mm-hmm.
I would certainly, um, if I were looking for a running coach, be looking for you.
Yeah.
I would love that. Um, what long-term goals as a run coach, do you have in your own running career? Do you have more in you, or where you at?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so Chicago was my 13th marathon. And if you told me a few years back that I'd still be doing it, I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Because one was hard. But I knew I liked it. So I'll keep going in that respect. I definitely have more in me. I'd say one of my big goals for 2025 is to um train more structurally for myself. I'd say this year was very much about focusing on my business and making sure, my health was all good. So I wasn't putting in the amount of time I'm used to when it just comes to training. So I'd like to kind of strike that balance again, to feel good about my own abilities and really just do it for myself. So one of my goals for next year is definitely just like go back to training regularly, put my all if I do decide to compete in certain races and all that. But yeah, I just kind of want to feel that athletic side come back for
Yeah,
me. And then so I can balance out that the business owner hat with like the person that just does this because they still love it.
Ashay,
Yeah.
that is so awesome. What what are some what are some things that were transformational for you that changed your life that you could share with others? Could that be in a form of a book, a podcast, life experience? We just talked a little bit about with you having that downtime and that level of transformation. But is there anything else that someone's out there that is desiring to either become a runner, or they're battling an autoimmune disease? Is there anything that you would share that was helpful for you to change your life?
Yeah, I'd say find a community around that thing. So for on the business side, it was working with a business coach who does group coaching calls, right? So every week I'm able to see a whole bunch of other people who are also working on their businesses. Because you'll find, like, once you start doing things out of the norm of other people around you, it will feel very, very lonely.
Yeah.
Especially if you have different goals. Like, sure, I have other friends who are coaches, but for me, it's about making it this known global, like, profitable thing, right? Yes, I work with athletes, but I want to work with businesses. I want to do, like, I have this vision of growth, which I also feel like further maybe isolates me in a sense. So, but to be able to find a group of people who have those similar goals, even if it's virtual, has been really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely engaging in material, with all this stuff. Like, I listen to running podcasts, but I also listen to just like mental health and business podcasts too. So having a blend of those is super, super fun for me, especially on the business aspect of it, because you'll have times when you are doubting your own decisions and you just need to hear somebody else's story about going through the same thing and how they overcame it. Um,
What are your top two in podcasts?
my top two. Oh, that's hard. Whew. I do love Rachel's.
Rachel Rogers, that is, of We Should
Yeah,
All Be Billionaires. Yep.
yes, from Hello Seven. Let's see. I can't pick a top two.
What about from a running perspective? Is there someone in the running space?
Yes, I appreciate the work of Growth Equation.
Mm.
Um, so it's a trio now, but it used to be run by two other coaches.
Hmm.
Just because I like their aspect on coaching. They're very in the science. They're not one of those podcasts that I dislike nowadays, where you see a lot of just like tips and tricks and hacks and things like that. It's like people, they want to take all of this stuff because they think it'll fast track them. But I like them because they understand that the only thing that really works is doing the work. So
I sure.
yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I love that. So, um, you also mentioned mental health.
Hmm.
Anything to share with those out there that are maybe in that space? I know personally for me, that is a place where I am living and working through
Hmm.
mental health challenges.
Hmm.
Any resources or well, we mentioned tips.
Yeah, I think mental health and running is very interesting, because there's also been a conversation about, doing certain things as a replacement for therapy. And if anybody were to ask me, I am the camp of running is therapeutic, but it is not therapy. You
Mhm.
absolutely have to talk to someone if things are not going as well for you, if you are having those challenges and stuff. And if your therapist recommends running as a way to get your mind off things, great. But I think that also speaks to, like, lack of access to the mental care that we need, that so many people are going to running or doing other sport in those ways, because it takes too long to find a therapist, or it's too expensive to find a therapist. But I think that's one thing we should make clear, that running is therapeutic, just like maybe playing music is therapeutic, just like doing art is therapeutic, but it is not therapy. It does not replace the clinical professional help of someone actually, taking you through your thoughts and your actions. um, I myself, I am regularly in therapy, because you just need some. I think it's just important to have the voice and opinion of someone that knows nothing else about you but what you've told them. The lack of bias there is great. And it just gets you more clarity. You can be stuck on something forever and not be seeing it from this angle that your therapist will see, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
So.
uh, I definitely believe so. You mentioned the term care team.
Hmm.
I call it your inner tribe or self-love tribe.
Hmm.
And the therapist is part of that, right?
Hmm.
You've got you, and it's all the things that you need for you to be whole and to show up in the capacity that you'd like to be
Yeah.
in your life. And so therapist is right up there. I actually see a psychologist twice a week because,
Mm-hmm.
this thing took me by storm, and I want my life back.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and what I feel that needs to look like as I moved in the space of, also being a business owner, a
Mm-hmm.
podcast host, showing up as my full self as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I can fully relate to that. Um, is there anything else that you would love for the people to know that I have not already asked?
So, okay, so I am actually doing a little project in January
Love
for
projects.
folks. Yeah. So it's called Unlock Your Run 31 Days to Smarter, Stronger Running. And what it is a free 31-day email series, right? I was trying to think of something to do for the New Year's that wasn't your typical, like, join the gym or, do this challenge and things like that. I was like, but
Mm-hmm.
I have, the background in the education to help folks demystify certain running aspects and to hopefully break through that noise of, like, taboo and tips and tricks into just like what actually works. So what it is it's a 30-day email series where each day you're just going to get like bite-sized, science-packed tips, actionable items for you to kind of build your running library and your running knowledge, and hopefully take that, with you to 2025 and beyond.
So does it start January 1st?
Yeah, the first email will start January 1st, but signups for the email list are already open.
Awesome. So where do we find you?
So that maybe I could send you the link.
Okay, we'll drop the link. And do you have social? What's your social name and all that good stuff?
Yes. So Instagram is where you can find me the most. It's at Hey Coach Mireille. I also have a TikTok where it's _ Hey Coach Mireille. My website is available, coachbymireille.com. um, let's see, where else am I? LinkedIn, if you're a LinkedIn person. I do have a podcast that is temporarily paused because I actually want to start a new coaching based podcast. Again, putting Black female coach into all these spaces. So I think if you subscribe to my regular newsletter, you'll probably get the info for that. But yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So to subscribe for the email to the newsletter, where do you want them to go? Is that
Let's.
to the website or where we going?
It is through my Instagram because it's linked in my bio.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So if you are listening on the replay or you're listening live now, go sign up for that email series, 31 days.
Yes.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. Well, we're about at time. So I have one final question for you,
Okay.
Mireille, and that is, I know that I've been asking all of the questions, but I love to ask my guests as well. Do you have any questions for me?
What do you think you'll take away from this conversation?
Oh, I took quite a bit away. I learned about the trail races and ultra races.
Hmm.
It's very, very interesting. I learned that there are run coaches.
Yes.
Um, I can't wait for your podcast to come back. I would love to do that. I love podcasts, and I'm going to sign up for your email series.
Thank you.
So that's why I love taking notes too. My guests are so wonderful and heart driven, so heart, not heart. Um, and I appreciate that. I also live with an autoimmune disease. It's called Sjogren's syndrome.
Mhm.
So that appeals to me. So I'm very interested in your 31-day email series to learn more. I'm
Mhm.
also going to take away that now I have another resource to add to my toolkit because I am a connector. I
Mm.
like being a bridge. So to make people aware of you and your services and how you can help.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what I
I
got.
don't think I have any more questions, just more so just gratitude for this time and this opportunity. Yeah, learned about this through the chat box from one of Rachel's events, and I was just like, just the fact that you were so willing to call people to, you know, speak about how they disrupt in their own work. I think that deserves to be noted as well.
Absolutely. We're all in this together, especially
Mm-hmm.
as disruptors. And one of my business besties called out to me that, I mentioned I'm going to Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I mentioned it on in here, but personally, we were chatting, and
Mm-hmm.
I and she was saying to me when I go to Ghana to tell people that I'm the #1 influencer on YouTube.
I
What?
mean, who's gonna check?
Right. Right. However, I am embracing and stepping into the role. I've been doing it for quite some time. I don't show up in a lot of the spaces like everybody's on Spotify and all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I've definitely got to lean into more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Definitely, this is a lane that I'm most comfortable in, especially I love YouTube because you can do the longer form content. You're not doing
Right.
short bites of things. And it allows me to show up on purpose in being that bridge
Mm.
being that bridge and connecting people. So it just fills my cup. So I appreciate the fact that you said yes to the offer, and the fact that you were flexible enough, because we had you pinned out to January.
Mm-hmm.
We had a slot open up and you were able to say yes to show up for us today.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
thank you so
Yeah.
much.
It's my
Um,
pleasure.
well, I'm looking, there are no questions out in the chat for us today. However, you all disruptors out there, if you want more information with Coach Mireille, it's going to be in the description box of this YouTube as well. And drop your comments, because she will be also on here as well, so she can respond at any time. Go out and follow her, like her work, share her work, and ultimately, if you need her services, make sure you utilize them, right?
Yeah.
You deserve to be coached. um I feel, especially for uh Black and brown people, we have not been given the support um that we've needed, or there has been this undertone of getting help is a sign of weakness. Is really a strength, and you deserve to be supported. So get what you came for, get what you need, and we're here for you.
Yes.
So that's our time. Is there anything you want to say before we go?
Um, for everyone watching this replay, thank you for tuning in, and I hope to get to chat with you all.
Yes, I hope you all do too. Get to chat. Well, thank you. That's our time. Until next time, I want you to take very good care of yourself. We'll be back next Sunday. Take care.